When I give my needs to you, you give everything to me. Where I thought you'd ask for sacrifice, only riches do I see. When I give my trust to you, you give my life to me. Where I feared that I could fail you, you show me I can fly. Hide and seek, too long I played for far too long. I was lost, but now I'm found. Your sweet, amazing grace pours through this song. When I take down the walls, your light comes streaming in. Where I feared you might reject me, you pour me holy wine instead. How could I try to hide from you? It's a mystery to me. For now I know my smile's your own when I'm flowing naturally. When I knock on your door, you invite me in. And when I take your outstretched hand, I know not where I end and you begin. Sweet, amazing grace. Sweet, amazing grace.
Thank you so much. Yeah, when you first came to Strawberry, it was Laura singing songs and having a bit of a jiggle with that. Now it's just Grace.
Yeah, I didn't even brush my teeth or shower.
I know, it's great. No preparation necessary. It's just wonderful. Isn't it fun?
This is what Grace looks like.
That's what Grace is, yes. Come as you are. Exactly. Yeah. That's so beautiful. Those songs and those words are just what I was feeling to talk about today. So it's all perfectly orchestrated. We don't have to have a meeting. We just show up. That's great. Wow. Well, welcome everyone. Good morning. Beautiful, beautiful, sparkly sunshine and sparkly eyes. That's the way to start the day. Yeah, I thought we've been talking about the theme all week of just seeing the the no-thingness of the world, the no-thingness of persons, personalities, the no-thingness of wearing a mask. It's not that you can change a personality or make it better, it just isn't there. And it's just the belief that it is where the challenge and the struggle comes in. In the Bible, it says, God is no respecter of persons. Isn't that a lovely line? God is no respecter of persons. And the mask doesn't really have a value. I mean, what would be the purpose of wearing a mask anyway? If you are who you are, and you've always been who you are, and that is an eternal spirit, then anything that you would try to add to eternal spirit would only be a difficulty for you. And it's interesting about this realm, because I kind of just listened to the words that are used. And a word that came to mind today was have and having. And as I listened to the word have, or having, used on planet Earth, I find that it's being used in a very peculiar and strange way. Having. Having a body, having a car, having a bank account, having a personality, having personality traits, having personality skills, abilities, having an education, having a family, having a spiritual path. There's something about this having word that is very strange, the way it's being used on this planet. Because what you have is what you are. And the way I'm hearing having used on the planet, it's a synonym for possession. All those things I mentioned, you could substitute possess for the word having, the way that's used on this planet. I possess a car, I possess personality traits, skills, abilities, money, clothing, a partner, a spiritual path. Even I have a spiritual path, and it is whatever, Course in Miracles or Advaita Vedanta, Buddhism, Taoism. It doesn't really matter. It's the word having is being used as a possession. And I'll tell you something, love does not possess. And love is identity. Love is who we are. It's not an attribute. Sometimes we say, oh, that person is so loving, as if a mask could be loving. It's words. Having, possessing. Love does not possess. That's the central issue. And possession always involves thing-ness. How Lisa and I have talked about no thing-ness. She's even saying that God is no thingness, or everythingness. But you see, it's the possession part. It's the belief in the parts, and the belief in the possession of the parts, that blocks the awareness of love's presence. In truth, what you have is what you are, because what you are comes from a source. You have a source, and anything in this world that's used to deny that source is self-deception. It's playing little, it's playing small. It's identifying with personality instead of the vastness of beingness. If you could just call upon the angels and have a chat with the angels in your bedroom every night before you go to bed, they would laugh at this idea of possession. That's the funniest thing to angels. When you try to tell them you have something, you possess something, they just laugh. That's their job. They hang around and laugh and laugh and laugh, and it's a really funny idea to possess. because our very being, actually, if you want to come up with a synonym, a true synonym for having, it's being. Having and being are identical. What you have is what you are. Some of you saw I Heart Huckabees, and Dustin Hoffman and Lily Tomlin as the existential detectives, but there's an early line in there where basically Dustin Hoffman's saying, everything that you want, you already have and are. Everything that you could ever want, you already have and are. It's a beautiful expression of the truth in that movie early on. And then he has to go under the blanket idea, and he zips him up in one of the zip bags for him to get in touch with his unconscious beliefs and all the images that are still in there. But basically he says it to him straight up, what you have is what you are, what you always have been. You already are. Everything you could want to be, you already are. So how does that translate? Well, this is just a state of mind. That's what Lisa Cairns and I have been sharing with you. That's what these teachings are about. It's a state of mind. And it's so simple, it's closer than breath, it's closer than under your nose, it is who you are. So it's the most simple experience ever, and it's only been covered over with a lot of nothing, much to do about nothing, much to do about no thing. This thingness thing keeps coming in. And when you try to find the peace of God through things, you don't succeed finding peace through things. And I'll tell you now, you won't even find it through words. Sometimes people read the Course and they say, I'm just going to keep reading this thing until I have an experience. And it's like, you won't find it in the words. If you go to the workbook, it says, our use for words is almost over now. It's actually launching you past the words. Saying things like, simply do this, be still. Lay aside all thoughts of what you are, what God is. Everything you've ever learned. Hold on to nothing. Do not bring with you one thought the past is taught, nor one thing that you've learned before from anything. Forget this world, forget this Course. Come with open arms unto your God. It's just an association in the mind, this having thing, having and possession. In this world, it's good to have things. Even though we're talking about no thingness, it's good. The world teaches it's good to have things, and the more the better. And that's how success is judged. You ever see those bumper sticker, whoever dies with the most toys wins the game? And some of you might remember there was a bumper sticker, I think it first was circulating around on Volkswagen Beetles back in the 60s. Life's a bitch, and then you die, And I remember one time back, I think it was maybe the 80s, where I was driving along and I saw a bumper sticker, life's a joy, and then you ascend. See, the Spirit always has an answer for anything. It's like, that's my whole philosophy of life right there on that bumper sticker. Life's a joy, and then you ascend. How glorious, how simple. So I'm going to talk about a few things today that seem to be popular and valued in this world. One of them is autonomy. Ooh, 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 how the ego likes autonomy. There is nothing useful or helpful about autonomy. What did Fleetwood Mac say, Stevie Nicks? You can go your own way, go your own way. You can call it another lonely day. Yeah. If you're in for autonomy, you're in for aloneness, loneliness. The journey to God, the lonely journey fails because you never find God in a sense of loneliness. That's sadness. That's poor meanness. That's a pity party. Why would you find the creator of the universe in a pity party? You really think you would find the source through pity? Autonomy is so raised up in this world. You know, parents raise children and they feel like they succeeded if they're autonomous individuals. What an oxymoron. Autonomous individuals. Let's explore that. Why is that an oxymoron? Why is autonomous individual a contradiction in terms? Because autonomy, true autonomy, comes from the source, the creator. You know if there's something that you are that's truly eternal and good, it has to come from the source. Everything that is real comes from the source. Everything that is unreal need be just seen for what it is and let go. Autonomy, your autonomy, we learn in A Course in Miracles, your autonomy was given you in your creation. So, it's actually impossible to be an autonomous person, but it's actually natural and actually possible and real to be autonomous spirit. What does autonomous spirit even mean? You never hear that. Nobody ever talks about autonomous spirit, and yet in A Course in Miracles it says your autonomy comes from your creator. In fact, everything that's true and real and good comes from your creator. You are given a spiritual nature that comes from source, and that autonomy is real and true. But that's spirit. When you remember yourself as spirit, you will know your autonomy. That's how you will find true autonomy, is only in knowing source, only in knowing spirit. And the other is you could say it's an imposter. Autonomy, personal autonomy, never, ever, ever brings an experience of lasting happiness. You may have an artificial sense of control. You may have an artificial sense of independence. That's what I keep hearing when people talk about autonomy in this world. Independence. Even countries celebrating Independence Day. I mean, I've been in a lot of countries and they have their own Independence Days, each country, when they were freed from the tyranny of another country, of being a colony. You know, I see it because I travel to a lot of countries, so I hear, they say, today's our Independence Day, we celebrate our independence as a country. What did John Lennon say? Imagine there's no country. I wonder if you can, nothing to kill or die for, and a brotherhood of man. Why don't we celebrate an Imagine Day, or a John Lennon Day, of imagine there's no country, instead of pride in the date when the country supposedly was free. A free country is an oxymoron too. The more you listen to me, you'll see that all of this world of linear time is just full of contradictions and oxymorons that make no sense. The two ideas don't even fit together. That's why they can't be believed, because they have no basis in reality, no eternal basis, no life of themselves, no source. So we've talked about autonomy. Let's go on. Independence, that's another one. Independence. People tell me I want to be an independent person. I say, what's that? That seems like a contradiction to me, independent person. They say, I want to be a free thinker. What does it mean to be a free thinker? Can you actually think apart from your source? If everything in your being comes from the source, how could you be a free thinker thinking apart from source? That's just like trying to be an autonomous person independent of source. Your free thinking is thinking with God, not trying to think against God. And how do you think with God? Well, I'll tell you what, it certainly isn't with thoughts of linear time. If God is a God of eternity, and God creates eternally, and that's your true thought, your true idea, your true life, then Anything that you attempt to think apart from God is tyranny. You won't find happiness thinking thoughts of linear time. Some of us have heard, "Be still and know that I am God." There you go. There you go. What else? Is that practical? Should you devote your mind to other things? No. No. That was a good one. Be still and know that I am God. Be still. That is really underneath meditation, not under necessarily meditation practices that tell you you have to sit a certain way, breathe a certain way, use a certain mantra, and do it for a certain many hours every day. That's still very much a practice. It's still very much on the timeline. And you do, in the end, have to go so into it that you actually let that all go too. That's still part of a linear practice. But be still and know that I am God is calling you into that super, super still, quiet moment that is the presence of love, that is the presence of God. So let's talk about freedom. And people say, I want personal freedom. Again, those two words together. Two words commonly used in the world. Personal freedom. Personal choice. Sometimes personal freedom and personal choice are used together. That is going nowhere fast. You try to attain something that's absolutely unattainable. When you go for personal autonomy, personal freedom, personal choice, personal independence, all of these are just concepts that are meant to defend against the love and the light that you are. None of them bear fruit. So sometimes people say, I'd like to be in a good space, a good environment. I like a better environment than the one I'm in. But consciousness is the environment. The thoughts of consciousness, the contents of consciousness are literally the environment that you've chose to surround yourself with. So we're here talking about purification of consciousness. Because you're not going to find your true identity or peace in tinkering around with the forms that seem to be consciousness. You have to deeply go inside and release these contents of consciousness. How do you release them? Just by seeing that they're all the same. You can't release them partially. You can't say, I'm 80% pure. I mean, look at it again. Isn't that a contradiction of terms? 80% pure. You see that? You following me? You're starting to see how silly. That's why the angels are always laughing.
I get it.
There's nothing more funny than the human being. And the angels just laugh and laugh and laugh. Millions of them on a pinhead. Just imagine just all those angels laughing. Because after a while you start to realize it's not so much that you have to give up something, but you just have to see what you never were and never will be, and then have a good laugh, have a good belly laugh at it. That's the way it's done. Not by giving it up piecemeal. Oh, I'm 90% pure now. Yeah. Well, that's not going to go. That's not going to cut it either. 90%. Come to the pearly gates. I'm 90% here, Lord. I know you not. I know purity, but I don't know 90%. I don't get that. So, let's talk a little bit about creativity, because that's another thing that gets talked about. Creative person. I have to say again, that's an oxymoron. I've never met a creative person in my life. Because creativity is spirit. Creativity comes from spirit. The eternal extends the eternal. Oh, you're creative, all right. That's your nature. But you're not a creative person. You're not a creative person. Or isn't it great, you meet somebody, you have some friends, and they say, did you meet so-and-so? No, I left the coffee house. They are a real spiritual person. That's another laughable thing. How do you have a spiritual person? What is it? Some are unspiritual, and some are spiritual. And then this thing about good energy and bad energy. Oh, I met so-and-so for lunch. They had really good energy. And then when you hear the bad energy part, it's like, stay away from bad energy. Cover yourself. Protect yourself. Psychically protect yourself. Call on the angels to wrap you in silver light when you're around that kind of energy. The angels are laughing. If you actually pray to them and ask to be protected from evil and evil demons and energies, the angels laugh at that too. They think it's the funniest thing. Because the angels are aware, of your perfection, of your true beingness. And they want you to laugh at everything that comes as a temptation. That's the way you transcend temptations, is you laugh at them. That was my talk yesterday. But didn't we discover that it was the group, the Temptations, that sang, it's just my imagination running away with me? That was our discovery yesterday, that we don't have to let anything run away with our who we are. It can't. Imagination can't even touch who we are. It's really profound when you just see, just stop for a moment and just see it. And you know it already. I can see, as I speak, I see a nodding head, a smile on the face. It's like, oh, I know this. And maybe it's been temporarily pushed out of awareness, but then, wow, when it's back, when you drop into it. That was what Lisa did the first talk, just the whoom, whoom. When you drop into this glorious state, then everything seems funny. There's no problem. There's nothing to be serious about. There's nothing to defend. There's nothing to argue about. Just drop. Drop. Nothing to get hung about. Strawberry fields forever. When we opened this up, when Eric sang, he actually sang your rendition. He couldn't remember the other one. Your rendition is taken over in the mind now. And we all remembered it. We all could sing along. Yeah. It's beautiful. That's the way spirit just comes in and it just fills you up. It occupies your mind. Because it is your mind. And you're free of the past. Someone raised the line from the Course, the script is written, and all that really means is that everything that you perceive of the linear world is gone. It's the past. Everything. For years I've been using some phrases. I would call it the past past and the future past. Are you hung up in the past past or the future past? People say, David, that's ridiculous. There is no future past. I say, well, how do you think the psychics read the Akashic records? How do you think psychics predict? Why do you think there's prophecies and everything? It's all reading the past. It's not even difficult. It's just an ability to read the past. The past, the future past. So now, this year, the X-Men, some of you have seen the latest X-Men movie, Days of Future Past. Here we go. Now they made a movie out of it. I've been talking about the future past for so long. It's only time when Hollywood catches up, and there it is, Days of Future Past. And it's going to be one of our festival movies. We're going to show it at our movie festival, Days of Future Past. We'll show About Time. That's another one from the makers of Love Actually. Amazing movie. We're coming into an awareness that the past is the past is the past. You don't have to fix the past. You don't have to change the past. You don't even have to acknowledge the past. You just have to see it for what it is. If the world is past, you know how Jesus says in the Course, the world was over long ago. Why would you try to fix something that was over and gone? That would be absurd, to fix something that was over and gone. Or even if you said, oh, this is just a figment of my imagination, why would you try to fix or change a figment of imagination? There's certainly a better use of your mind's energy than trying to fix the past. And how does that play out? When you try to fix a partner, when you try to fix a house. Some of you remember some of the best comedy movies, Shelley Long and Tom Hanks' Money Pit. Remember how funny that was? They just kept trying to fix this house and kept throwing more money and more money and more money into it, and it was the money pit. It just was absorbing doses of money, and it was just hilarious because it was just falling apart at the seams, no matter how much money they put in it. They actually believed they were going to succeed, and you know, that was that. And you could see that with families. You can see that with jobs, with careers, you know, trying to build a career, you know, working so hard at a career, being loyal to a company, loyal to an occupation, this and this, and then when you're ready to cash in and get your rainbow, your pension plan, what? My pension plan is no longer there, or it's been stolen or hijacked. Wait, where's my gold watch? I don't have a pension plan or a gold watch? But I worked for years, loyalty, slaving away, going in and shaving, getting dressed up and brushing my teeth and going to that same job, and I was loyal to my employer and everything, and the pension plan is gone, it's stolen. Again, why would you put your faith in time when you're an eternal being? Why would you put your faith in time? But put your faith in houses, put your faith in savings and investments, all kinds of things. Why would you put your faith in something that is just ephemeral, that will just pass away, like dust in the wind, with nothing to show for it? So, I would encourage, I call it divine providence. There was a time too when I was talking to Frances Zhu, and she had this huge insight one day that persons don't have divine providence, that no person ever experiences divine providence. And that's even kind of sneaky because, you know, you think of divine providence, some of you may think of Mother Teresa or St. Francis or Jesus and the Apostles or whatever, and she had this flash of insight one day that it was her mind, her awareness, her consciousness that was being perfectly provided for by Source. Not the person. That was way too small. It's a stepping stone idea. If you think that you're supported by jobs and careers and politicians and even growing crops and all kinds of things in this world, then your mind needs an experience that it is perfectly provided for. It is perfectly sourced. You need to know peace of mind. You need to know the stillness that you are in order to know that providence, that being taken care of feeling. So in A Course in Miracles, we've got a symbol called the Holy Spirit, and there's some great passages in there, attainment of the real world and so forth. But isn't this lovely? The Holy Spirit will give you everything you need. Ooh, that's good. The Holy Spirit will give you everything you need. And there's more. And will renew it as long as you have need of it. Whoa, this is a promise. The Holy Spirit will give you everything you need and will renew it as long as you have need of it. But the Holy Spirit would not have you linger in time. So you have everything you need, and it's renewed as long as you have need of it, but the Holy Spirit would not have you linger in time. The Holy Spirit will take nothing from you, but will not have you linger in time. Why? Because you weren't created as a time being. You were created as an eternal being. And the Spirit is always helping us unwind from limitation, unwind from lack, unwind from littleness, unwind from scarcity, unwind from conflict. The Holy Spirit would not have us linger in time. Thank God. That's why you can talk about, the miracle of manifesting, and I've had people say, I can manifest anything. But it's like, at some point, after you start to realize the power of the mind, then eternal peace has to come in as the direction. Because otherwise you're going to get playing around and tinkering with the symbols. Okay, the mind is capable of tinkering with the symbols, The mind that believes it's separate is capable of tinkering with the symbols. But the mind that is whole and complete doesn't want symbols. What is the symbol but a representation? A representation. It's not an actuality. A symbol will never satisfy you. Even the best symbols are meant to disappear, because they're just representations along the way. They're little signposts. Like, yeah, we're off to see the wizard. You keep following, follow the yellow brick road. You've got to realize we're given beautiful, beautiful symbols to go on this, but it's not meant to, we're not meant to linger in the symbols. We're not meant to freeze down. And even in the Wizard of Oz, they go on this whole trip to find the wizard and to go back home and this and this and this, and you find out it was all dream. The whole thing. The flying monkeys, the Wicked Witch of the West. I was reading a bit about the Wizard of Oz recently and how they made it. They had like 6 different directors. They kept having a director, firing another one. Dorothy was supposed to have blonde hair. And so they tried to get Shirley Temple. But she couldn't sing. Somewhere over the rainbow. Shirley Temple didn't have that good of a voice. So they finally got Judy Garland with red hair. They kept changing and changing. They had all these different set changes, production changes. I think they had like 23 major changes, 6 changes of directors, and yet it came through as it was just a dream. All those frightening characters, the flying monkeys, the green witch with the long nose and everything, was all just some of the characters in her Kansas life, dreamed up in this dream, all about going home. And of course we know Kansas is not really home. I've been there. I tried that out too. I had a hermitage in Kansas, in the middle of Kansas too. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. But no. I know, what was that about? A lot of cornfields, I'll tell you. Cornfields and wheat fields. But it's flat, yeah, so flat. But we start to realize that there's something much more, and all these movies and all these parables and all these fairy tales are pointing us to that. We can see that we hear all these songs that we've been being serenaded now for decades of amazing waking up songs. Amazing, amazing songs. And it's all for this simple, simple, simple experience of beingness. Now people have said to me, listen, I can hear what you're saying, but you ain't going far on planet Earth. You go for this non-possession stuff. Good luck. Sucker. You are going to go for a big tumble. You're going to just be old and fat and gray and crying, why didn't I invest? I hear this all the time. They say, David's lost his marbles and he's beside himself. And, I'll tell you what, you never can truly live unless you experience the joy of non-possession. And I'm talking about even with relationships. You think you've had some great interpersonal relationships? You ain't seen nothing yet. Because this experience of agape love, this experience of unconditional, universal love, That's going to knock your socks off. That's going to blow your mind.
I'm ready.
And these interpersonal relationships have been good reflectors. You have to thank them. You have got to be grateful because they've really flushed up a lot of unconscious crap. And you thought it was real until it came up and you went, oh, please, no more. I am not going down that road again. I mean, I went to Spain, I think it was a year or two ago, and I was giving a talk in the Canary Islands, on the biggest of the Canary Islands, and my friend had told me I was supposed to come there and marry this couple, but I forgot all about it. So I was giving my talk, and I was saying, you know, there's only one really true, accurate wedding vow, and that is, I love you now. That's about as accurate as you can get, and as short and sweet as you can get. And so they were translating, my friend Susanna was translating into Spanish. I didn't know, but the bride and groom were in the audience, and I was supposed to marry him the next day. So then the next day, you know, I put on some music for the event, Amazing Grace. I had Amazing Grace playing in the background. The bride and the groom come up to me, and they know a little bit of poquito, tiny bit of English, and I said, well, what do you want for your service? What do you want for the vows? And have you thought this through? They had the ring. They both had been at the event of mine. They said, oh no, we got the vow. It was in Spanish, and it was, I love you now. That was it. They would both exchange, I love you now, with a ring of no beginning, no end, as a symbol. And it was beautiful. It was very kind of mystical and ethereal, and everybody was so happy. Everybody that kept showing up and coming in, it was just a happy scene, happy reflection, and that is the simplicity of it. Other times I've visited people who are going through divorces or breakups and everything. I just don't get that. I don't really understand what a breakup is. So I'm showing up in full joy, full throttle joy, and I walk into sometimes houses and families, and there's allegiances and alliances, and who did what to who, and who's wrong, and who's never going to speak to who, and who's been jilted, and you know, I'm just like, please, let's honor that. The mind is, when it's asleep, it's making choices. It's actually, everyone's doing the best that they can based on what they believe. Their choices are actually beliefs, and they're emptying their mind. They know deep down the way to truth is emptiness, is empty the mind of everything you think. They've been around. They've read the same books. They've been exposed to the same teachers for centuries. They know that, and they're really doing the best that they can based on what they believe. Can we not honor that? Can we not honor our brothers and sisters as they take their seeming steps and do the best that they can? And can we not have charity for them? Can we not have vision of seeing their innocence? Really is what they are, is pure innocence. Behind these seeming choices in form as persons, there's an innocence there. Can we not focus on that? Can we not overlook their failings and their misgivings and their, even the perception of these things? There's a line in A Course in Miracles where Jesus says, dream softly of your sinless brother. Dream softly of your sinless brother. Remember his kindnesses that he gave. Focus your mind on the kindnesses. Focus your mind on the generosity. Focus your mind on the sweetness. Focus your mind on the charm. Focus your mind on the love. And let go of everything else, because it's all for your mind. Whatever you focus on, you reinforce or you strengthen in your own consciousness. If you focus on the little hurts, if you focus on the little misperceptions or the little mistreatments or the little glares and glances, that they occasionally seem to come into your awareness, if you focus on that, you retain that in awareness. You know, Jesus just said, you know, love the Lord thy God with all thy whole heart, soul, and mind, and love thy neighbor as thyself. And what's the basis of the second commandment? He really just emphasized those two. He didn't emphasize the other 8. Why would you love your neighbor as yourself unless your neighbor was yourself? Unless you really weren't your brother's keeper, your sister's keeper, but they were actually just reflecting your consciousness. And you start to see that self-love, true self-love, is not a thing of bodies, it's your spiritual reality. When you love your neighbor as yourself, you're just loving. You're loving as your source loves. Your source makes no distinctions. The source doesn't love some and not love others. The rain comes and the rain falls on everything. It falls on the trees, on the cactuses, on the rocks. It falls on the people. It falls on the telephone poles. It falls. It's not coming down going, oh, watch out there, it's a telephone pole. There's electric there. Let's go over there and hit some cactus or something. You know, it doesn't discriminate, and neither does love. The sunshine doesn't discriminate either, it just shines. Anyone who wants can go and bathe in the sunshine. It's not aiming its rays somewhere. Ooh, there's a better one over there. There's good energy over there. Let's shine over there. Oh, it's dark over there. Let's send some clouds. You know, this is not how life works. Discrimination. Okay, that's my spiel for the morning. That's all I've got to say. But I'm open for any questions, comments, what have you, whatever. I just want to say too how practical this is. You know, even though people told me, well, you can only be giving to a point. You can only be generous to a point. Generosity has its limitations. I don't think so. I'd say love doesn't have any limits. We have a wellspring of love because we come from a eternal source that has no limits, so that means the love in our hearts has no limits. So we can give that away, and we're not talking about like giving in terms of material possessions, because we're actually talking about seeing that that's impossible. Material possession, you know, is actually another oxymoron. So we're not talking about trying to become a philanthropist or something, but we're talking about the Beatitudes. Give all the love in your heart. Shine it, share it, indiscriminately. Don't try to figure it out or hold it back or aim it in a certain way. Just let it flow. And generosity, you know, even some of these symbols that some of you know about the Essenes and the Apostles and the Franciscans and so on and so forth, they had this thing called shared property. That was just a symbol. You know, you can't really share property. Remember what Mary Baker Eddy said, there's no mind in matter, there's no life, truth, substance, intelligence in matter, so you can't really share property, but it's just a symbol. And you'll find that many things in your life, you'll just see that they're all symbolic, but the symbols don't mean anything in and of themselves. As soon as you realize that it's the Holy Spirit that's using the symbols, and you go, ah, I never have had a possession, I never have had control over this whole thing, then you start to realize that you're really, really free. The Spirit is in charge of the use of symbols. And again, the Holy Spirit will give you everything that you need and will renew it as long as you have need of it, but would not have you linger in time. That's very comforting. That means you can let go and say, well, I'm definitely not in charge here of anything. And yet I am so provided for. I don't have to put thought and energy. That's what Jesus taught. Take no thought for what you shall wear, what you shall eat. You know, take no thought for the morrow. Give no thought to the morrow. Wow, that's really freeing too. No thought for the morrow. My gosh, I don't have to get into planning and scheming and striving of how I'm going to keep this body surviving another day, another year, another 10 years. What am I going to do when it's old and gray? No, please, take no thought for tomorrow. You feel how relaxing that is. Put your full attention on the kingdom right now. kingdom of heaven is within. Give your full attention to it. Don't hold back. Don't make any exceptions to it. You'll be more free than you've ever could have imagined in terms of the world. That state of mind is more free than anything you could imagine. In fact, freedom doesn't really have a form, so that you can cease thinking about, I could be a little freer if only I had possessed, possessed. That's not the way. That won't lead to freedom. Jesus says in the Course, what do you want, freedom of the body or freedom of the mind? For both you cannot have. I pay attention when I hear, for both you cannot have. I'm not going to try a mix. If the Master, if the Lord is telling me clearly one thing, I don't need to buck it, I don't need to fight it, I don't need to try to prove him wrong and say, I'm going to do both, I'll do both and justify it. No, I've gone for freedom of the mind. I've gone for an experience that is not tied into form, where I don't need to have things a certain way to have freedom. The body can seem to be stationary or it moves. Doesn't matter. My freedom is not dependent on the body. Circumstances, environments can shift and change. Doesn't bother me, because my freedom is not dependent on the circumstances and the situation. I think it was Marianne Williamson who said, happiness is not circumstance dependent. Very wise. Very wise. It's true. It's true. Okay. We'll open it up. Francis.
There's a phrase that came to me, and I feel prompted to share it. When people would question me about various things, and I'm sure it was guided, that there is no such thing as the rest of my life.
Okay.
And that kind of stopped the conversation.
Yeah. I'm sure that was a lot of fun when your children were asking about their will and inheritance. And you said, there is no such thing as the rest of my life. Okay. But I see that you're smiling. That's very good. Rick.
You touched on independence, and given that it's a label generated through form, breaking it down, I got in dependence. And the word I got, it just absolutely clamps me in form. Clamps me.
Oh, that's
not hands
great.
on, clamps me.
In dependence.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's very good, Rick.
All right.
Wow. Now everyone all day is going to be going, wow, am I in dependence? To what Rick said. Yeah. The funny thing, too, is I think in this world, dependence has really got a bad name, and independence seems to have a good name. And the funny thing I find is that when we talk about divine providence and emptying your mind of all these concepts, that I like the way in A Course in Miracles, dependence is flipped around in a positive way, in a very positive way, dependent on your Creator. I mean, if your Creator created you and you live and move and have your life in your Creator, then wouldn't that be the most helpful thing, to be dependent? And that's why Jesus said, except you become as little children, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. He wasn't saying that little babies, infants, were perfectly serene and peaceful, because we know they cry, they kick, they scream, they poop, they squirt, they pee. This is not, except you become as little children. You're like, have you had a baby, Jesus? I mean, do you know what you're talking about? Infants. No, he's saying, what do we know about infants? Infants are completely dependent on mother and father for everything. They don't come into this world autonomous. Okay, here I am. I'm autonomous and free. I'm a unique individual expression of God, and I'm autonomous and free, and get out of my way. Well, no, they're completely dependent. And Jesus was saying you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven except you become as little children, because he was pointing on you need to become as dependent on your source, on your spirit, on the spiritual guidance, as little infants are, babies, to their parents. That's what he was teaching. He clarified that in the Course in Miracles. I always wondered a little bit, like, no, I think kids are kind of innocent looking, but not all the time. I don't know how good that metaphor is, but no, I didn't understand the metaphor. Now I understand the metaphor. He clarifies it. Don't you love that? Jesus Christ always clarifying things in the Course in Miracles, tweaking you, going, oh, that's what you meant. Oh, that's what you meant. Okay, I get it. I see it. And that's it. That dependence thing is. I like being dependent on Source. It's within it, though. It's not a external dependence. Like when I was in grad school and they listened to my tape and they said, David, won't trust or rely on external sources. That was a prophecy, I guess. It was pointing me to the kingdom of heaven within, and just trust. And that's the whole basis of all the characteristics of a teacher of God. It's all based on trust, and if trust goes, the rest go. And if your dependence on Source goes, then that's it. Some of you remember David Hawkins. He passed away a little while. He used to live down there in, was it down near Sedona? Sedona, yeah. That's where you're from. He wrote Power versus Force, wrote things, and he was using a lot of kinesiology and testing and this and this. And he would kind of rate things spiritually. And he would rate all these things, and what was fun is he would say a book would come out, it would be like channeled from spirit, and the book would come out, and it would be like rated at like, a 7 or an 8, on the scale. And an interesting thing he noticed was, at the time it came out, the author of the book was rated as the same as the book. And then a curious thing would happen, the book would remain at that kinesiology rating, and the author's rating would drop. I thought, that's really fascinating. The book would stay the same, the author's, what would happen? Fame, pride, fortune, adulation. On this planet, even if you channel a great book, you've got the ego is sitting back going, okay, good. Right, you had a great channeling book there. I'll get you yet. With vanity. Like at the end of The Devil's Advocate, Al Pacino plays the devil. He said, vanity gets him every time. Good. It's good to be aware of these things. These kind of things, we're here to undo pride. We're not here to have successful personal lives. We're here to be humble, to be as little children, to be present, to be as God created us, His Spirit. That is really what it's about. So I'm glad you're bringing that up, because that fits right in. Independence, in worldly dependence, gets you nowhere.
It's the opposite of what we think it means. We think it's giving us freedom.
Yes.
But in fact, it's clamping us into the dependence on ego and form.
Yes.
Really?
Wow, that would be great. You could do a whole lecture at a non-duality conference, that independence and dependence are actually the same. We have angels here that are just springing up. They're jumping in the yard. There's something that's to be spoken.
Yeah.
Here, quick. I'm talking and I see the keys just springing and bouncing all over the grass. Like,
Yeah, this whole thing, I'm doing the pride and be like little children, and we're not here to be successful persons. It just really inspired me. We're watching tonight at 7. We're gonna have a movie session, and we're gonna watch The Kid. So it's just perfect. Yeah, I kept hearing a movie, and I'm like, I can't think of anything. Probably at the chapel. Yeah. So and then I kept hearing check out your movie list, and I just went through my movie list, and I was like, no, 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 no. And it was like, the kid, yes. And then I hear David talking about we're not here to be successful persons, and we're here to be little children, dependent, very much dependent. And so that's perfect.
Yay!
Yay!
We got a great song for that. Recognize Joey and you.
AC.
I keep having this notion to take space, just to be, to not be social, and I wonder, is that ego or is that essential? I just don't know.
Okay, well, let's look at that one. Take space. Take space to not be so social.
Or just to be.
Just to be.
To be.
Yeah, yeah.
And move away from other bodies and just be. And it seems right, but then I question, am I up to something? You know, am I avoiding something? What am I doing?
Am I up to something? Yeah, that's a good thing. Am I trying to make something happen? The thing I think is so great is there is a way shower. There is one within us that is guiding, comforting, leading us, and it knows the way. Some of you know that in a Course in Miracles workbook, you go through all these lessons, 365. You go through 360, and then you get to the final 5. The final 5 lessons, and it is, this holy instant what I give to you. Be you in charge. Isn't that great? The whole thing is set up to have you be dependent on spiritual guidance. This course is a beginning, not an ending. Henceforth, listen to the voice for God, which will direct all subsequent learning. You see, it's this thing of the temptation could just come in and thinking, if I had a little more space and I was more away from people, maybe I would be happier. Or sometimes people flip the other side as they feel like they need partners and community, they need to have people around them, otherwise they'll be lonely. Both of those would be kind of ego definitions of it. So I just feel like the most helpful, humble place is when you are in that place of this holy instant what I give to you, be you in charge, where you are just open and receptive, and you have this state of allowance and willingness there, and then instead of trying to imagine something, you can feel it. You just kind of just notice things happening. I know for myself that was important. I seemed to be guided into hermitage experiences, to face things. Sometimes people come out here to the monastery because they have so many intense emotions, and they love how gracious the rocks are out here. You can scream at the rocks, shout at the rocks won't call the police on you, no straitjackets coming, Sometimes people just go and, whoa, they let off a big emotional discharge, and the rocks are like, that's fine. So they're not bothered by emotional discharges. Now try that in your family setting. It's a different reflection that comes back. So there can be a spaciousness and a kind of a loosening that goes on as you experience yourself as the light of the world, and then in that light, the miracle is involuntary. So you may seem to be sent out to shine and share, seemingly, but it's not really about what the body does or doesn't do. And in the end, it's not about being close to bodies or far away from bodies. Sometimes people like to be around nature and plant bodies or animal bodies as a stepping stone, because they're not so intellectual. They're not saying, what does that mean? You say that you express what you do to a tree, and the tree's like, okay, good. It's very accepting. So those are helpful symbols and steps along the way.
I noticed yesterday, it was like after lunch, and I just kept hearing rest. And I went, do I need to rest? And then I laid down and rested, and then after I went, oh, I guess I did, because rest is what happened.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's nice.
yeah.
You're just easing into this involuntary flow. That's beautiful. That's what it's all about, really. Kevin. There's a whole bench back there, yeah.
I had a couple of word plays come to me when you were talking about possession. One thing that came up, you were talking about having and possessing the possessions. Then the phrase demon possession came to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's the same word.
Yeah. Demonic possession, that's something, I heard growing up a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about love does not possess, just a phrase popped into my head, love professes, not possesses.
Yes. I like that. Wow, you and Rick should have a seminar this afternoon. That's great. Love professes, not possesses. Yeah.
Yeah, just following on from what was just shared, the business of, or the idea that love has no object. I have difficulty saying, when somebody says I love you, I kind of waver with that one, and I'm saying, look, it's not Rick you love. And if I'm not saying I love you, then I'm afraid it's almost like I'm a bit afraid that I'm going to lose it. Like I'm going to lose everybody. If I say, no, it's not me you love, then they're just going to fade away. And if everybody just fades away, I'm not really sure I'm comfortable with that. And I wouldn't say it to everyone, but it's just not trusting completely, I think, is what it comes down to. It's just sort of on the cusp of saying, look, you and I are standing in front of one another and reflecting one another, and I'm not. It's just getting to the point where I can acknowledge that it's not you, but that I'm loving, and be able to say it and trust that everything's going to be okay. Like, trust that all my mighty companions aren't just going to disappear. Well, actually, the mighty companions probably wouldn't, but it's just an awkward moment.
Yeah, let's explore that. I'll do a little discourse on love, like a Rumi. So we start off with love has no object, and then you're describing this awkwardness, sometimes a hesitation, sometimes you may say it's not Rick that you love, but there's a fear of turning somebody off or losing things. There's a part in A Course in Miracles where Jesus says, you have many strange beliefs, but perhaps the strangest of all your beliefs is that you can lose the ones that you love. That's pretty strong. Perhaps the strangest of all your beliefs. But what's happening is if you followed all these ideas and concepts that we've been talking about today down to the root, like if you could find the root, what's the root of all evil? What's the root down there in the mind that brings all these distortions and distorts even love, distorts the experience of love? It's sacrifice. Sacrifice is at the core of all distortions. And sacrifice is the belief that something can be lost or must be lost, that there's a cost, there's a price to pay. Even all those misinterpretations of Jesus and Christianity, sacrificial lamb, the blood of the lamb slain, as if God would require one of his innocent children to be sacrificed for the good of the whole, for the prime directive or something. No. Sacrifice is under all of the fear of love. That's where the fear of love comes in. It's a very strange thing, fear of love. Even when the Bible says, fear God and keep his commandments, it's not talking about fear like we talk about it. It's be in awe of God and keep His commandments. That's the proper interpretation of fear God and keep His commandments. Now, the reason that there is a little bit of awkwardness and there's sometimes a strange feeling or a little hesitation is because everything that goes for love in this world is a construct that was made to take the place of love. Like you watch the bumper stickers, you know, I love my whatever, New York Yankees or Canucks or, you know, whatever it could be. You could put after the I love, whatever objects are put after that, those are all idols and substitutes actually for what true love and divine love is. And then romantic love, actually that's a construct too. That's where the hesitation and the awkwardness comes in. Because the words come out, I love you, but as long as there's associations and connotations around persons that are still in there, it's going to be some awkwardness because sacrifice is still at the bottom. You know, like we come up with words like polyamor and the idea that there could be many loves, but love is one and not many. So you will never have a true experience of many loves. Or monogamy, as if like there's just, you can love one person more than any other, you know, that it's actually possible. Sacrifice is underneath all of these concepts. And that's why the mind needs to be rinsed. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. Pure of heart. Purity. That's purifying all, letting go of all these concepts, emptying the mind of all these concepts of love to come into the actual experience of agape, divine, unconditional love. So it's great that you're noticing that. You're just onto it, you know. There's a little awkwardness there, and what's underneath that awkwardness, kind of like the Princess and the Pea, you know, there's all those mattresses. At the very bottom of all those mattresses there's a little pea, and she's sensitive. She's feeling the pea. Even under all those layers and mattresses of softness, she still feels the pea. You're just opening your heart up. You're coming into an experience where even when the I love you words are spoken, you're just going to pay attention and see if there's a little bit of awkwardness even underneath those words. That's beautiful. That's exactly how you heal, is by noticing and being sensitized to that so that you can let go of anything that's there. I mean, they had the Quantum Love song that Kirsten and Ricky and Eric came up with. This love is not romantic. This love cannot be contained. Of course, in our hearts we know that love cannot be contained. Because God cannot be contained. Because love, in the end, is undefinable. As soon as we define it, then there's sacrifice involved. It's kind of an interesting story, the way the ego twisted the whole story of Jesus, like the blood of the Lamb and the sacrifice offered up for the sins of mankind and everything. That story has not solved anything. Just probably raised more question marks. Like, why would a God of love require the killing or the suffering or the sacrifice of a child? Doesn't make sense, and with good reason, as we see that it's erroneous. It's not it. I did my book Awakening Through A Course in Miracles, and someone I saw online the other day had given it a 1-star rating because they said that, you know, basically that David had left out Jesus' sacrifice. Damn right I left out Jesus' sacrifice. I'm happy with a 1-star rating. If that's behind it, throw in the ones. I don't care if they're 5s or 1s, because love does not sacrifice. There is no sacrifice in love. That's what the whole awakening is coming to see. You know, that there's no sacrifice in love. But every time we have a hesitation around anything, I'll tell you what's underneath the hesitation. It's still the belief in sacrifice. Even in the movie The Giver, I just saw the movie Giver. I was watching, and there was still, this one will have to sacrifice sacrifice his life for whatever, for the community. And there it is again, you know. It's underneath. It's the root of all distortions. It's the root of all hesitations. It's the root of awkwardness, is the belief in sacrifice. That you can lose something. Someone's got to lose. It can't be win-win-win. You know, that's what sacrifice is saying. Oh yeah, there's going to be a cost. There's a price to pay. I have found no price. I am giving all the love in my heart. Extending, giving, and I have not found a price. I have not found a price. People always say that. Every human being has their price. Well, yeah, but we're spiritual beings. And our spirit doesn't have a price. Freely you have received, now freely give. I love that. I resonate with that, the core of my being. So thank you. That's great. Thank you for bringing up that little hesitation, Rich.
Fingers are pointing everywhere.
Peace up there. Whoa, we got some.
Sarah says, forward this one. Dependent on your direction.
That made it simple. Cue in.
I'm in the midst of an experience, so so what I'm finding, you know, here now with me is you know, yesterday I thought I'd offer to sing at 3, and that sort of got rejected or pushed away or something, and in a way I offered some reading for like poetry, and that got rejected, and I'm asked not to express at the altar sessions. And if you remember, there was those days we spent together, you know, where people were just singing and I didn't sing. And it was a little awkward with my son, but I mean, there's what I'm feeling so profoundly right now. I mean, you know, I could go to the blaming, but what's really happening is somehow I'm projecting out in the universe a total squelching of myself with the book, with the music, with the, you know, it's like the force back at the tremendous creativity coming through of spirit. And it's like even Friday night, like I was sure I was going to sing Saturday, because Spirit was talking to me for 2 hours. I mean, it was like 12:36 and 1:11 and 2:01, and there'd be these just downloads of what I was supposed to say and what, you know, and somehow then it doesn't happen. And somehow it was excruciating to me today not to get to offering the altar session. And I feel so separate in making myself separate in not somehow being able to manifest. It's very painful to me right now. Like it was, so I thought I was going to sing today, you know, and then the 3 o'clock changed, and the 7 o'clock changed, and it was like, but it's way more than that. And so I just offer that.
Thank you, Sundari. I know too that before you even were coming here, you were sending me, was it the Requiem? Yeah. And you've been singing for days and days and days.
I sang 4 days at Davies Hall in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Just right before now, 2 days after this, I have an audition to get back in this choir.
Yeah.
I hadn't sung classical for 15, 20 years. You know, it was like, oh my God, can I read music? And Kevin, he's so brilliant. Kevin said, oh yeah, sing from the Requiem. And somehow we've put together like 4 or 5 pages of this huge requiem with all these parts and orchestration, and made it into a solo, which is.
So there it is.
I mean,
so it's the collaboration.
I saw you. You were
Yeah, and it's like
I saw you.
it's all kind of like it all comes out. That's what I love about this year. We used to do 7-day music festival, and now we're doing with the movies with 10 days, and so it's like that thing of that Anna had talked about. Dance as if no one is watching, sing as if no one is listening. It's who we are is the gift. There's all this love that who we are is the gift, and of course, at times it wants to come out and be expressed, and at other times, it's just this thing of timing. In other words, I call it divine timing. Like everything comes at its time. And even this past year, it was kind of interesting for me because the Holy Spirit's been using me to sing and speak and laugh and hug and move and this and this. And I remember I was in Hawaii, and I got an invitation from it. Would you come to a silent retreat? We'll fly you into a silent retreat. We don't really want you to speak at all. That was good too. Oh wow, this is cool. I'm getting flown halfway around the world to just do nothing at all. We just want your presence. We just want you to show up. We don't want you to express anything. Zip it. Like in Mini-Me, Austin Powers. Zip it. Zip it, zip it, zip it. Well, I had a delightful time. I had a delightful silent retreat, just going around and eye-gazing with everybody and this and this and this, because that's what was asked for. So I think part of me is, once you start to see that you are the presence, you are the light of the world, you are the love, and that is everything. You are the gift. You are the gift. You are, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Jesus says the word within is actually unnecessary. The kingdom of heaven is you. Whoa! Is you. The word within is actually unnecessary. I love that. So, and miracles are involuntary, so you have all this love and you can feel it and everything, and then even the need to express it in a particular way can block the awareness of the gift. Even the need to express it in a particular way or at a particular time, you see how that's getting rinsed and washed. And I say, great, all for the glory. I want to just be happy. So that's the joy, and I'm happy that you can just come here and say whatever you need to say, because I join with you in the gift. You are the gift. You are the gift. You really are the gift. You are the sun in sunshine. Sundari. Really, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, beautiful. Carolyn, up there. We still have that song to come. What's the name of it?
It's Recognize.
Recognize. Okay.
So I asked for less body identification, and what's happened is it's accelerated. It's just one big huge distraction that I set up to keep me from receiving love. That's how I see it. So I'm so concentrated on these things that are happening inside of this body that it appears that I have to go to Park City to do something to take care of the body, and so then I'm missing things, and I guess I'm just not sure how to ease that and really let it go.
Well, one of the things I think that's helpful is kind of, again, it's like loosening from the idea of time and the day and how things are supposed to go. I love just coming into what seems to be a new day with just an openness, like I mentioned at the very end of the workbook. This holy instant would I give to you. Be you in charge. That there's no accidents in form. Even when there's a feeling like something needs to be taken care of, like to go to, a clinic or to go to see a practitioner or something like this, it's always to bring the light. You are a bringer of light. Your attitude is essential. And even when, if you're called to go meet with a practitioner or into a clinic or something like that, still you are the bringer of light. Everything is for the same purpose. And then the ego tries to say, but you'll miss this, and you didn't come out here all the way to drive out here to Utah to be handling this body stuff and so forth. It's the presence that you bring with you that is the gift. I had a woman one time who, I was at a Course in Miracles group, and we were waiting for the start of it, and I kept hearing from the Spirit, not yet, don't start yet, wait, wait, wait. And then this woman walked in crying and saying she'd been diagnosed, I think with lymph cancer or something, and she'd spent her whole life, like a lot of it, reading the Course and telling her husband or children, it's all in the mind, there's no disease, there's no sickness, that's a figment of imagination, and on and on and on. And then coming right from the doctor and coming into the Course group, just shocked, just embarrassed, can't go home, can't talk to my children, can't talk to my family. And the Spirit just poured through me, because she was feeling she needed to go and have some treatment, go to the hospital and have treatment and everything. And it was all from this mentality that I've done something wrong. And everything that came through from the Spirit was like, you are the light of the world. You bring a blessing with you wherever you go. Wherever you are guided to go, you bring a blessing. And she joined me in the joy of that, like the encounters with going to the hospital and so on and so forth. And more parables came out about a woman who basically had to be operated on in her neck for the lymph cancer that she had. And while she was undergoing the operation, she had a past life flash of her at the guillotine and having her head chopped off, because she had some hesitation around the doctor and the operation, and she saw that with this past life flash, it was the same circumstance. There was a blade, a neck involved, and that this was all about a reinterpretation. That she was there to forgive this flesh of this memory, forgive that she could ever be mistreated, forgive that she could ever be harmed. This was a surgeon offering the blade, and the symbol was coming in. It was there. He was as an agent of healing, there to help her, whereas the other one was literally to have her head chopped off. It's all about reinterpretation. And so, when you come and you make this journey, this pilgrimage, or even to come here with all the strawberry symbols, God goes with me wherever I go. God is in everything I see. I am here to be truly helpful. I'm here to be the light of the world. I'm here to shine the light, and I'm not here to judge the symbols and the props. It's a temptation to think, like you mentioned, like a bladder infection or whatever the presenting problem seems to be. It's never about that. We are here. We have a glorious message to shine, a glorious attitude to shine, a glorious presence to shine, and so it's just that tweak in the mind, just reorienting back to, I'm here to be truly helpful, and I don't have to understand the props or the symbols or how the body is used or where the body is used, I can let go of all that safely and come back to I am here to be truly helpful. And it does draw your attention, to the miracle. It just draws you into that, and it takes it off of the interpretations, which is where the mind gets hung up. It just gets hung up with these interpretations. I was at a healing festival a number of years ago, and a friend of mine, Cindy, she had her whole day planned at being at this healing festival. It was in Wisconsin, and we were going to do a thing on the matrix, and it's a whole schedule full of things. And she woke up in the morning and she couldn't move her body. She just was couldn't move her body at all. And she just felt so bad that she was at this healing conference and she was bedridden. And I remember going to her room and looking at her, she said, I please pray with me. She said, I feel so bad that I'm at a healing conference and I can't move my body. I can't get out of bed. And so we prayed together, and we felt the love of God, and we felt the joy. But instead of her rising out of the bed, this body, we curled up and we just meditated in bed all day long in the glory of God. I said, the matrix thing, we've done all that. We've done it all before. This is it. Let's just cuddle and curl up in God's love. And then we just laid there in the glory all day, and then she rose up the next day, and she was a typical active, the body, just as active as could be. It wasn't a problem. An inactive body is not a problem. It's only the judgment that things should be different than they are. That's where the lock up comes in. So it's just beautiful to remember that, that what seems to be the interpretations of the body can't hold you back, can't stop the miracle. Nothing can stand in the way of the miracle.
Thank you.
Hey.
Would you clear something up for me about this reincarnation? Because in the Buddhist temple, they were talking about, for example, the flying dreams. They were saying, well, that means you flew before, or you're going to fly. And then one time there was this thing where I was in a spaceship, and I thought maybe it was like it wasn't a dream, but so what's the deal with the reincarnation?
Okay. Well, it's all symbols. It's all symbols in the mind. We talked about that with one of your questions the other day, that you were saying, so it's all symbols. When we just make distinction between the symbols as if like we've done it before or so on and so forth. You might say we've done it all before. And at the same sense, when we go into this no thingness and everythingness that we've been talking about during this retreat, you start to see that in the end everything starts to just merge together because it is together, or you might say that all distinctions start to fall away into a state of mind, just a present state of mind. And so I would say that with past lives or past life regressions or things, if you notice a pattern, that's really the advantage, whether it's astrology or past life regressions, and there's so many different tools and techniques. It's all just to help you notice the patterns, underneath. What are the patterns? And then just noticing the patterns is just an opportunity to forgive. And forgiveness collapses time. Forgiveness shows you the sameness of all things. Forgiveness lifts you into this glorious state of mind where you're aware of the sameness. And those distinctions that seem to be important there along the way, they start to fade away as well. I always tell people, just pay attention to your emotions, if it's like a flying dream or something, it's not so important whether you've done it before as it is the feeling of the soaring and the freedom and so on and so forth. And when you feel limited or constricted in some way, then that just turns into an opportunity for forgiveness, for healing release.
So the woman, she was not really ever got her head cut off, or the scalpel thing, or is that just
It's a symbol. There's a parable one time when this man was carrying some heavy groceries in and his back went out, and so he started just praying and opening to Jesus, and so Jesus works with him with the time symbols for a while. He says, well, you think your back went out because you were carrying all these heavy groceries and you shouldn't have tried to do it all by yourself. You should have asked for some help. But that back pain that it has nothing to do with carrying the groceries, he says, first of all, to the man. He says, actually, you had when you first seemed to come into this world, you were taken to a Christian Science facility and you had a breech birth, and the pain that you experience has nothing to do with the groceries. It's this, you haven't forgiven the doctor, you haven't forgiven your mother. He was describing this whole situation occurring at birth where there was a breech birth and he still was holding on to grievances of some of the characters, the mother, the people at the facility, and this and this and this. And then Jesus said, let me tell you something, the birth never happened. You see how he's so practical. He takes it from the groceries and he takes it back to the breech birth, and then he goes, he pulls the rug out. It never happened.
There's the rug.
There goes the rug. There goes the Kleenex. There goes the tears. No need for tears about this breech birth. It never happened. And that's really what we're learning through forgiveness. He takes it in and working with the mind, the symbols that it can relate to, the symbols it can handle, and then it never happened. That's how deep forgiveness goes.
Well, I wasn't going to mention this till I saw you hit that with your elbow. The other day on that ice, I was practicing a thing on the ice,
mm-hmm.
and now my elbow is messed up. And I'm thinking, man, I was done with it.
Yeah, I just did that skit just for you. It's involuntary. Didn't even try to do it. Yeah. Francis. This will be, I look at the time, this will be our last question, and then recognition.
You've been so...
That's fine. I mean, we can it's just when you're watching.
You've been so helpful with symbolism and body stuff. I have an annoying condition that's in the back. I mean, I can't see it. And it's been years and years happening, goes away and comes back. And I'm looking at the symbolism of it being something, in the back that I can't see. I can't reach it. It's just... and I just wondered if you had anything helpful to suggest. As you've been so helpful for other people. Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing that's coming to mind, because we talk about symbols and we start to get an awareness that nothing is as it seems, and so if this seems to be a condition that is in the back and that you can't see it, but you experience it, it's in the most simplest of ways. I always just say, what's the message of the symbol? But that can be, that's coming to mind is just don't look back. Don't look back. Yeah. Okay, we're ready for our closing song.